And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your honor host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome to the show debut author Allison Buccola, here to give us the inside scoop on her brand new red hot book, Catch Her When She Falls, out tomorrow. Allison, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me here. So Catch Her When She Falls is about Micah, who, when she was a senior in high school, her boyfriend killed her best friend, or at least that's what Micah has thought for the past 10 years. And so that Micah's returned to her hometown. She's opened up a coffee shop there. She's dating another friend from high school. She's sort of trying to get her life in order. And then she starts getting reminders of the past that make her question whether she really understands and knows what really happened that night. So she starts kind of digging into it, and it goes from there.
Very cool. Well, I can't wait to get into every delicious detail. But first, I just want to welcome everyone, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube. We are streaming to 6 destinations. Wherever you're watching from, you are in the right place. You are here at the right time, and we are going to get into it. So if you've been here before, you know how it works. Get your questions going in the comments. This is your time to talk to this incredible author, and I will get them right over to it. Leslie, welcome to the conversation. She's saying hello. That's her signature Canadian hello. Leslie's joining us from Toronto. Leslie, welcome to the conversation. Always a pleasure to have you, ma'am. So Allison, let's get right into this. What gave you the idea of this woman surviving the trauma of her boyfriend killing her best friend in high school? I mean, what a gruesome thought. You look so sweet, but clearly you're not.
Yeah, so I love true crime podcasts and documentaries, and was listening to a ton of them when I got the idea for this book. And I started thinking about sort of some of the family members and the friends that are interviewed in them, and what their reaction would be to having like light shed on these cases that have been closed for a long time, or not getting that much attention anymore. And so then I started thinking about Micah. And so Micah is in this weird place where she is the friend of the victim, but also has this relationship with the accused murderer, and obviously would have very complicated feelings about new attention on the case. So I sort of started thinking about her while I was listening to these true crime podcasts, and it just kind of came from there.
Very interesting. Now, was it one particular? Because I know I listened to Live, Die in LA. I just finished listening to My Sweet Bobby. I listened to Serial, of course. Was it one in particular, Allison, that you can give credit to, or you just were really in it?
I was mostly in it. I was listening to a lot of My Favorite Murder. I don't think it was anything that came out of that one in particular, but that was the one I was listening to the most. I think I was listening to I think it was called Someone Knows Something. But I think it was about a missing girl, but the details of the case they were talking about are very different. So it was mostly just sort of being immersed in true crime podcasts.
Exactly. I just put in the comments, who can relate? Me. I love true crime podcasts. Anissa Joy, welcome to the conversation. She's saying hello, Sara and Allison. Anissa is an amazing bookstagrammer. She does big things with friends in fiction. She's last seen streaming live with Jenna Bush Hagar. Hey, girl. Hey, it's so good to have you here tonight. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments. Nancy commented earlier, because they take questions in advance in Mystery and Thriller Mavens, and she commented and said she is reading this book as she speaks. Nancy, let us know how that is going for you. So Allison, I noticed that she runs a coffee shop called The Stomping Grounds, which I loved, and which I thought was such a cool name. Did it take you a long time to come up with a cool coffee shop name, because most of them were already taken, or did it just pop in there, or what?
Stomping Grounds came pretty early in the book. I think actually Stomping Grounds was probably named before Micah was named. Micah's name changed during the book, but Stomping Grounds was one of the first and longest lasting things in it.
What was Micah's name before it was Micah?
Her name was Gwen, which really didn't work for her and didn't work for me. So it had to get changed at some point, but yeah.
Ooh. Now, what else got changed about this book? Was it the title? Was it the premise? Was it anything else without any spoilers? Did you have to change much, or is this pretty fully formed from go?
It was, so when I write, like wish I could be more of an outliner, but I'm not an outliner. So it all just sort of like comes out. Like I start with like an idea and then work from there. So things got shifted around a lot while I was writing it. The title changed a number of times. The title started out No Stone Unturned, which is the name of the true crime blog in the book.
No Stone Unturned.
Yeah, and I liked it, but like
I like that.
yeah, but the true crime blog is a part of the book, but it was like really kind of centering the true crime podcast, or not podcast, true crime blog too much. So then it was Safe Harbor, which was like not exciting enough. And then it was Show Me How to Disappear. So I went through a whole bunch of titles and a few different variations on those titles. But I like where it turned out.
And how did that come to you? Did your editor pick it for you? Did you pick it? What made you think of this?
Yeah, we worked together. We came up with like a whole big list of different things. We just went through the book and we're like looking through it for different ideas. But I really liked Catch Her When She Falls because so Emily, the friend, dies from a fall. So there's like that literal connection to it. But Micah in the book is really unraveling. And so I liked the like sort of tie into a few different characters.
I like that. Melissa Watson, welcome to the conversation. She's saying, good day, Sara and Allison from Australia. I'm going to give my best Australian accent. Melissa's going to be like, that's terrible. Good day to you, Melissa. Thank you so much for joining us. So lovely to see you here with your cute little puppy's face. I love it. Oh. So Allison, one thing that I liked a lot about this was your addressing of PTSD, of the effects of trauma on a tender, vulnerable human heart and psyche. And so we, as you say, see Micah unraveling. And that starts off when in the first chapter, she's in her coffee shop, just having a lovely day of, serving coffee, and a customer chokes. And she has to administer the Heimlich maneuver, but it really jars her and affects her very deeply. And I thought that you described the physical sensations of being triggered of an anxiety attack very well. Let's talk about your research into that and how to describe something that is so scary and so shocking in a way that is compelling.
Yeah, I think I don't know that I did any research into PTSD in particular, but just thinking a lot about like anxiety and about sort of overwhelming reactions to, or strong reactions to like sort of overwhelming situations. I think it mostly just came from reading a lot of different characters who have been through similar things, or more fiction reading than research into PTSD.
Well, as someone who has had a lifelong battle with anxiety, I thought the anxiety parts were very well done. Okay. And I've tried to write about anxiety myself for characters and also for articles. And it's very hard to describe the physical intensity of anxiety, of terror, of a fear-based response to watching someone almost die in front of your eyes or whatever the triggering event is. So I thought you handled that really deftly and very well. So yay. Melissa is saying that I'm doing okay with the accent. Melissa, I'll try to earn your praise later. Allison, let's talk about the crafting of this book. How long did it take you start to finish, soup to nuts?
So it took 2 years to actually draft the book and get it out to an agent.
That's fast.
Thanks. It felt like a long time, but and then from getting it sold to publication was another 2 years. Which I knew the publication route was long. I did not know it was that long, but it's been a fun process.
Well, what's been fun about it?
It's been writing the book was fun to begin with. I've like always wanted to be a writer, and so it was really fun to get to actually like create a book. So drafting it I really enjoyed. Then it's been really fun when writing it can be like such a solitary activity for the first part of it. But sort of getting like connected to critique groups has been great because you get to like meet new writers, and so that's been really good. And then when you actually sell the book, then you're like working with your agent, you're working with your publishing team to sort of get this product out into the world, and like feeling like you're on a team with people trying to get this book out there it's been a really good experience.
That's really good. I'm glad it has been a good experience. That's really great to hear. What's been the most surprising part for you?
I think the amount of time that it took was definitely surprising. I think probably the length, but.
Mm-hmm. Anissa would like to know, what has surprised you the most about being a debut author? Great question, Anissa, as always. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that sorry. I think it's just been it's all been sort of a new experience having a book out there. It feels, I think I was like sort of expecting like it's an author, it'll be like I'll be an author, it'll be really fun, my life will be really different, but I've spent a lot of time like still cleaning up vomit around the house for my kids and and that sort of thing. So it's been pretty pretty much life as normal.
So that is what has surprised you, is how nothing really has changed.
Yeah.
My little dog just vomited yesterday. I was like,
Aww.
oh, I was like, this. So when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, some things, yes. Some things don't change. Allison, you have earned some incredible praise, including Liv Constantine, bestselling author of The Last Mrs. Parrish, who raved that this book is, quote, a riveting game of cat and mouse with a startling conclusion. So let's take that piece by piece. So since you have confessed that you are not a plotter, you are a pantser, you go where the story leads you. Did the ending surprise you, since it surprised Liv?
It did. And the ending is another thing that changed a few times when I was writing the book. And I don't want to say too much about how it changed because I don't want to give anything away. But I sort of saw Micah going somewhere initially when I started writing it, and then it took me in a different direction.
And when you say it, are you saying the muse, the creative muse?
I guess
the editor? Like who's the it here?
It was a little bit of both. So the ending did change from submitting it to publishers, and the time that it actually and now the final product. But I did not have, it was not like there was like some ending that the editor wanted there to be, but she wanted me to like dig in more to some of the backstories of some of the characters. And once I started doing that, and I was like, oh, I think it should actually go in a different direction.
And did that feel right to you?
It did. I'm really happy with how it worked out.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Have you ever gotten any feedback that didn't resonate, that didn't feel right to you? And how did you handle that?
It's mostly so one thing that was a little surprising to me about the publication process is that I kind of imagined when you got feedback from an editor, it would be very, very specific and very particular and like change this or do that. But one thing that's been really great about the process is that a lot of it was just sort of like broader suggestions. So like I said, like, maybe develop this character out more or see what happens if you like explore over here. So I think with those kinds of suggestions, it was nice because there was just a lot of room to like play around with how I wanted the book to turn out.
Okay. Yeah. Now, as someone who is also a pantser, who aspires to be a plotter, but haven't made it there yet, I spend a lot of time writing myself like joyfully, abundantly, like, woo, pedals to the metal into a dead end that I'm like, oop, gotta back it up. And then I'm like, oh, crap, there went that 5 hours of writing, or 5 days, or 5 weeks. And then I'm like, why don't I plot? What about you?
Yeah, I feel like there are definitely dead ends that I hit, but I feel like a lot of those dead ends, like you end up writing about a new place that's in your town. And so that place like exists in your town and exists in your head. So then when you're like writing a future scene, you're like, oh, well, why don't I have this take place at that bar that like didn't end up making it into the story because I spent too much time like going in the wrong direction there. So I think those dead ends can be helpful. And I think, and also like there might be, new characters that pop up or new clues that you can use in a different direction. So So I try to tell myself that like something comes out. Definitely not. It's definitely something does not always come out of the dead ends, um, but often it does.
Well, clearly it's working because she reads has named you one of the most anticipated books of 2022. Congratulations on that. And Kimberly McCreight raves, the number one New York Times bestselling author, raves that this book is, quote, thoroughly propulsive. Richly atmospheric and thoroughly propulsive. Catch Her When She Falls is a thought-provoking mystery about the fraught interconnectedness of youth and the tragic limitations of teenage insight. So let's take that bit by bit. So first of all, what do you think the key to writing a, quote, thoroughly propulsive, which I interpret to mean like a book that just sucks you in and keeps you writing, keeps you reading. You just have to have another chapter. What do you think the key to that is? How'd you pull it off?
I think that suspense is tricky. I think it's kind of tricky to figure out for yourself whether it's working while you're writing it. um, I I think when I started writing this story, it was actually a lot more linear than it ended up, and I think that making it less linear was really helpful. So in the story, Micah is driving to find the brother of her dead friend from high school because she's learned something and she needs to tell him something, and she needs to make him understand what it is that she's discovered. And so that element of the story sort of introduced like a ticking time bomb. Like there's a clock there. So she's heading towards the brother. Something's going to happen when she gets there, and then she's remembering these different things that she learned recently, and also the past. So I think that having that element where she's in danger, we don't totally understand what it is, we're like trying to figure it out, help to drive the story along a lot more than if she were just in her coffee shop, like getting some clues and trying to figure that out. So I think that's what worked here for this one. But I feel like it's always different things that help drive a story forward.
I think that's so right, because I think also just even the thing that you did at the beginning of each chapter where you have the timestamp and it's ticking along, and it's like 7:33 a.m. And then she's on this, it's how many miles until she gets to Joshua, and then it's this time and how many miles she has to go, and so it literally it's this. You find yourself getting so anxious because the time is moving and the miles are clicking and she's going, but you don't know who he is at first. You don't know why she's going there. And so that I thought was really interesting.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, another thing that I really loved was from another review, Ashley Winstead, who is the author of In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife. She said this book is gripping and mesmerizing. It's like watching a building catch fire, aware that dark ends are coming, but you're unable to look away. And then she said it is a portrait of a woman unraveling the definition of shirk all responsibilities and stay up till 2 a.m. reading a truly superb story. So clearly you kept Ashley Winstead up until 2 a.m. So that must be some sort of record. Let's talk about how she said, I liked how she said the word mesmerizing, because I don't know, I just like that word. But what do you think is the key from a craft perspective in terms of writing a book that people feel mesmerized by? Is it Micah's anxiety? Is it that we have to know about the murder? Is it something else? What do you think?
I think for this story, Micah's anxiety was probably a big part of it, and her anxiety is getting ramped up as the book goes along, and I think hopefully the reader is being taken along on that journey with her. So I think for this book that I was really trying to focus in on that. And I hope to. So Micah's, like, Calvary is a small town in Pennsylvania that she lives in, and I hope I was able to. It's a fictional town, but it's based on like Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I hope I was kind of able to like inject some of that like small town Pennsylvania feel into it.
So that was my next question. Is you live in Philadelphia, Philly girl here. I wondered why this fictional town Calvary and what that town was based on, but now I know it's not Bethlehem. So why there and not Philly? Why was it important to have that small town vibe?
Yeah, I think I wanted it for a few different reasons. So one aspect of Bethlehem that I really like is for this story in particular is that it's an old steel town. So you still have this old steel infrastructure in place, but the town is sort of moving on, and it's no longer dependent on steel industry. It's moving on to being like it's more of a university town. And I liked Micah living there in particular because she's also trying to move on from her past and like trying to figure out what to do now. So I kind of liked that. And I also liked that Calvary is, it's a college town. And so you get a lot of people in there who have been in the town for a long time. They know all the town's secrets. They know Micah's secrets. It's a lot of people from her past. But then you also have these college students who are coming through who are very different, who don't know her past, but also are, more likely to be sort of inconsiderate observers of what's going on now. So you just get this like mix of different types of people who are coming through. And I wanted something like that for where Micah lived.
I love that. David, welcome to the conversation. David just hosted Allison a few days ago, and let me know that when I was sharing that I was hosting you. So great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. So great to see you popping up. And yes, we're happily Philly girls, currently broadcasting from Boston right now. So yeah, I thought another thing that you did really interestingly was that college kid, the townies versus the college kids. And because, you established that tension right off, again, right before the woman chokes in that first one or two chapters in the book, where these sort of mean college kids come in and they're rabble rousing and they're opening sugar packs and throwing on the table. And I was getting really upset about it. I don't like messes. And also because I was like, why are these guys being such jerks? And how would I handle that? And what would I do with these rowdy boys, but then also these two colored girls? And I didn't know. So I thought that tension built between those two populations of the townies and the entitled college kids was interesting as well.
Thanks.
What was your thought on that? Just another tension building technique or
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's definitely something that is looming in the background of the story. It's not, and Micah herself is someone from that town, and so has some discomfort with the people who are just coming in and just sort of like watching and then going. I think that's definitely something that she feels as someone who grew up there.
So I let people, hi, Anne, welcome to the conversation. So I let people submit questions in advance because not everyone can watch live. So in Mystery and Thriller Mavens, I let people submit questions in advance. We got a few of those. I want to make sure I get to them. So one person would like to know, what is your best advice for aspiring authors?
Yeah, I would say just keep at it. I think different things work for everyone. I tried to write, when I'm drafting, I try to write 500 words a day. And that's my I have to hit that every day. And if I can write a lot more, then that's great. But for me, at least, it keeps me writing every day and it keeps me moving forward instead of getting stuck and writing the first chapter over and over again, which can feel really good, but doesn't actually get you to a book at the end of it. And then I think, I think it also just makes writing a book a little bit feel more manageable since it's such a long process, and you actually can write 500 words a day. But if you start thinking oh, how a book is so long and this is what I'm doing right now is not that much, you can just sort of step back and focus on that smaller piece. So that's what worked for me. I mean, I know a lot of people don't do the word count, but I found it really helpful.
Allison, I noticed that you are also a lawyer.
Right.
Did that enrich your writing? Did that delay your writing of your book? What role has that played in the journey of your writing?
Yeah, I think it was really helpful. So I practiced law before having kids, and then I stopped practicing and I was writing the book while I was staying at home with my son, and now daughter. But I think that working as a lawyer was really useful because you do a ton of writing when you're a lawyer, and you do a ton of writing that's on deadline. And so before working, I think if I had tried to write a book when I was 25, I would have been too precious about it, just me personally, and I would not have finished it. I would have gotten stuck on the first chapter and just kept on reworking it over and over again. But when you're a lawyer, you have to like turn things in. So I think it like taught me the diligence that I needed to be able to actually push forward and get a product and then get it out.
Have you thought about infusing that into future books? Like, will we see a character who is a lawyer? Will we see some legal thrillers forthcoming from Allison Buccola?
Yeah, so my work in progress has a lawyer character in it. So I'm hoping that it goes somewhere. And I really like this character a lot. And so we'll see. But she is a lawyer and she does work at a big law firm at the beginning of the book. So
excellent. Welcome to the conversation, Connie. Welcome, Maxine. Welcome, Andrew. Welcome, JD. Great to have you. Ooh, question here. What inspired you for this book?
Yeah, it was so really like true crime podcasts were a huge inspiration. Listening to probably too many of them personally. And another, I guess it's a little different than an inspiration, but two sort of like real life things that I drew from for the book were my husband and I took Micah's drive that she takes in the book and got to like sort of explore the routes that she would go on and what's there and what you would see doing that drive, which was really fun. And then another real life inspiration, I guess, was I wrote it in a lot of coffee shops. So that inspired Stomping Grounds.
Ooh, that's so cool. And that's a great question from Melissa. Thank you for, I don't know why your profile picture's not showing up, but I know it's you. I see it's you. So thank you for that. Thank you for that wonderful question. So what, this next book, this with the lawyer character, what has inspired that?
For that one, it's the law firm was inspired by my own experience at a law firm, but this character is grew up in an intentional community is how she thinks of it. And a cult is how some other people in her life think of it. And she is sort of pulled back into it to explore a death that's taken place there is sort of the general outline. So that was, I mean, some of that is also inspired by being too into cult documentaries. So I've been watching a lot of those. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it.
And what's the attraction with the cult documentaries, Allison? I can relate to the true crime podcast, but not the cult.
You don't watch them? They're so good.
I didn't know that cult documentaries were a thing. This is actually brand new information. What are the cult documentaries?
Oh, they're great. So you have to start with Wild Wild Country, which is about the Rajneesh she's up. If you're into true crime and you have not yet like taken the turn into cult documentaries, that's the place to start. Nexium was a big one that was out that had a few documentaries about it. I've been doing some like YouTube documentaries about different kinds of communities that people like live in and different communes that people live in. They're fun. They're interesting.
Very interesting. I had heard of intentional communities, but I didn't know that some people considered them cults. I didn't.
Well, I think that I don't think that most intentional communities are not cults. So okay. I don't want to disparage intentional communities. I think a lot of them are great. I think that it's just if you're in a group that has some like sort of restrictive norms or is doing their own thing, it's going to be like viewed with some suspicion, sometimes rightly, sometimes wrongly. And so that's something that the character in this next book is dealing with.
I just watched the launch event for Tara Westover's paperback version of Educated. And so she was talking about being raised in what sounds like a very cult-like atmosphere, but it was really just her family. Mm-hmm. But again, totally off the grid. She didn't even have a birth certificate until she was, I think, 7 or 9. I can't remember
it's
now.
So wild. Yeah.
Yeah. And, didn't go to school, didn't go to the doctor. And so it was fascinating to see how, to hear firsthand, and to hear how she was indoctrinated with this, it seemed like pretty cult like thinking. So fascinating stuff. Okay. We have 2 minutes left. So any last questions for Allison, get them going in the comments and I will get them right over to her. We have another. I'm sorry. I had one more submitted in advance saying if you were stranded on a desert island with one of your characters, who would it be and why?
Julia is my favorite character in the book. Julia is sort of Micah's nemesis. She is now dating Micah's ex-boyfriend from high school, and really wants him to be set free. I don't know if I could handle Julie on a desert island though, so probably not her. Ryan, I think I could probably spend some time with on a desert island. Ryan is Micah's boyfriend, and he's her current boyfriend, an old high school friend. And he's a librarian. He's pretty bookish. He'd probably bring some good books to read on a desert island, so that could be good.
I like that you've made it bookish. Ooh, great question coming in from Anissa. She would like to know I love this question. Who was the toughest character to write and why?
Yeah, I think Ryan was the toughest character to write.
Why?
And I think it was because Ryan is, like we said, Micah's current boyfriend, and it was really tough getting him right, like calibrating him right to make him someone that Micah would want to be with. And then also Micah has a strong personality and is like pushes people. And so I wanted him to like not be a total pushover, but be someone who would believably be with Micah. And it was a really tough balance. And so he sort of like swung all over the place in my different drafts. And I think I eventually got him right. But he was definitely the toughest character.
Interesting. I wasn't expecting you to say Ryan.
Did you have a different character in mind?
Well, I was thinking that it would be Micah.
Yeah.
I don't know, for a lot of reasons. Anissa saying, thank you, ladies. Fascinating chat as always. Anissa, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the conversation, Scott and Susan. Thank you for joining us. Allison, I think the other thing that I just, was sort of thinking about as I was reading it was which one of the reviews, and I'm blanking on which one because I just posted them all, but one of the reviews talked about the difference between Micah's perspective now and her teenage insights or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. And so when she's reflecting back on, her friendship with her murdered best friend, and her perspective of what she thought then versus what she thinks now is really interesting, I thought. Even just like one thing that like really caught me because I took dance classes was when I was their age, was, when she's thinking about the dance classes, that scene really stuck with me where she's thinking that the teachers were picking on Emily because she herself was better. But actually then when she got her toe shoes and Micah didn't, she then realized, no, they saw more potential in her. And it was sort of that jealous, not maybe envious, sort of like, oh, but still love for her friend. That was so interesting to me in the way that girls or any friend sort of, look at each other and compare, both from her 13-year or her younger self and herself now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really fun writing those two different time periods for Micah, because I think you're right. I think that when you're in high school, there's so much going on and it's so complicated, and you are just beginning to understand like what's going on in these friendships and what do these relationships mean and what's the significant, like what is the world. But it's such an important time, and it's such a like vibrant time, and there's so much going on. And so writing those friendships with her in high school and sort of like how she thought about them then, and then reflecting back from an adult perspective, it's a fun way to write. And I always do enjoy those two perspectives when they come up in books, just the looking back at sort of what you thought was going on then and what you realize is going on now.
Yeah, I love that. I want to remind y'all, the book isn't even out yet. It's out tomorrow. You can pre-order it tonight, and the good folks at Murder by the Book will.
It is actually out. It came out on the 1st, so It's available. Yeah.
Usually I host them the night before they come out, but I'm remembering now that
Oh,
we have
fun. Oh, yeah.
scheduling issues. And the book is out, and the good folks at Murder by the Book will send it to you tomorrow when they open. So grab your copy now and support our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. All right, Allison Buccola, thank you so much for joining us. Thank all
Thanks
of
so much for having
you
me.
for spending your Valentine's Day talking murder and mayhem with us. All the best conversations. Have a great rest of your night, and I will see y'all next week for Mystery Monday, because you know that Mondays can be murder. Oh, and Ashley is saying, hi, Allison, from a bibliophile Esquire. Member, yay. Ashley, great to have you. Thanks for tuning in. David saying thank you. David, thank you so much for joining us. Leslie, always a pleasure to have you as well. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I'll see you next week.